Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. Here's one of the more unique watches in my collection. This one from the late 1980s. It's the JP-100W, the Pulse Check watch from Casio, 50-meter water resistance. It says Pulse Check, and down there, in very fine print, it says Split Memory 10. So this watch was especially made for joggers. There's even a jog mode right there, and I'll tell you about that in just a moment. So the pulse check is a very unique feature. Maybe not so unique anymore because we have our smart watches and things that have pulse monitors on them. But boy, for the late 1980s, this was pretty high tech. They go out of their way to remind you that this is not meant to be a medical device, but it can give you some references that may be useful as you're doing your jogging and just, trying to stay in shape. All right, so let me tell you about this watch. First of all, this is not the original watch band that came with it. The original, like many watch bands I had on my Casio watches from the 1980s and 90s, developed a crack and just eventually failed. So I bought an exact replacement once or twice maybe over the years, and finally I gave up on it and got this strap, this nylon strap, instead of the original watch band. The original watch band would have been more tapered so that right here where it meets the case of the watch, it would seem like just a continuous design rather than right here where you've got this little notch, in there like that. But anyway, all right, let me show you the main functions and features of this watch. And first of all, let's just talk about setting it from this main timekeeping screen. If I press and hold this adjust button over here, things start to blink. And this, of course, is where you can set the seconds. And if I press the button, it will reset to the nearest minute for seconds, hours, minutes. Here you can set the month and the day of the month, and you can manually set the day of the week. So this watch won't be hampered by, you reach a certain point and the pre-programmed calendar doesn't know what day of the week it is. In fact, it never knows what day of the week it is until you tell it. This also means that the only time you have to worry about the date and the day of the week getting out of sync is if it happens to be a leap year on February 29th. The watch doesn't know that February has 29 days, so you might have to manually adjust that on a leap year, again, if those get out of sync. But otherwise, you just manually set the day of the week and you're set there. Those are all the things you can set with this watch. Also, if it's not blinking like this, if I press this button down here, then it switches to 24-hour display. So that's just a simple thing to do. Sometimes you might hit that by accident and you didn't want the 24-hour display. All you have to do is press that again. Go back to your 12-hour display. So that's the first mode. The next mode is your alarm. And this one actually has, well, of course, the hourly signal. So I can turn that on or off using this button on top here. So there, it's going to beep every hour, hourly signal active, and there it's not active. Then I have my alarms. And there are 3 alarms on this watch. And like any digital watch, you can set the hours and minutes. And then you can also set the day of the week. So if you want that alarm to be 7 a.m. only on Sundays, or only on Mondays, or Tuesdays, or whatever, you can set that here. Or if you set it to dashes, then it will be every day of the week. But you do have that option of having it just be one particular day of the week. And that option is available for alarm number 2 and alarm number 3 as well. You can separately activate each alarm just using that button there. So in this case, alarm 3 is off, signal is off, alarm 1 is on, alarm 2 is on or off, so a little bit of versatility there. The next mode, I have to scroll back from the beginning to the jog mode. Now the jog mode is kind of complicated because at first it looks like just a regular stopwatch, but it has a few things that might help you if you're a jogger using the stopwatch in this configuration. So if I start this stopwatch, you can hear it's beeping once every second, and it'll do that for the first, is it 10 or I think it's maybe 20 seconds when you start the stopwatch. Yeah, okay. For the first 20 seconds when you start the stopwatch, it will beep at a pace that you select. And this might help you, if you're jogging at a certain pace, you can set the pace of that beep to help you get going. And now it's not beeping like that, but when it reaches 5 minutes, you'll get that beep again at the same pace for 20 seconds. So every 5 minutes as this is running, you're going to get that beeping pace. And while I'm running here, I can press this split time button up here. And what it will do is it will save to memory my split time. So right there, okay, my stopwatch is still running, and up here is my split time. But I can press it again, and now it's saving another split time reading as memory number 2. Do it again, that's memory number 3. And I can keep going with those different split time memories all the way up to, is it 9 or 10? Let's figure that out. Okay, looks like it was 9 split time memories, and now I can keep doing split time, and it'll keep showing me up here, but it doesn't save them to memory. It only saved the first 9. All right, so now what happens is if I stop this, okay, it's telling me, okay, I've stopped, and I can review the memories that I saved as far as the split times go, okay, all the way up there to number 9. And there where I've stopped it. If I want to reset this to 0 right now, I would press and hold this. But in the meantime, what it would do also in normal mode here, when you're jogging mode, when you stop it, then after a full minute of being stopped, it's going to beep and remind you to take a pulse reading. So, that again, it'll do that every minute for, I think that goes 9 times as well. It will remind you, take your pulse reading and see what your pulse is. So if you're a jogger, monitoring your heart rate, that's a useful feature in this jog timer mode. See, there's the first one. That's what that does. And then 1 minute later, it's going to beep again to remind me to check my pulse. Okay, but if I want to just reset this whole thing, I can hold down this reset button, clear. Hold that down for long enough, and there it goes. It has cleared, and I'm back there. Now, I told you about it beeps at a certain pace. So when I'm just sitting here in the jog mode without it running, I can hold down this adjust button, and there you go, pace. This means 60 times per minute, so, once per second. But I can take that down, all the way down to just 5 times per minute for my pace. So if I want it to beep, that would be once every 12 seconds it would beep, and it's going to demonstrate to me how often that would be if I hold it there. And it will go to a maximum of, I can disable the beep for the pace, or I can make it 240 times, or, that would be 4 times per second. So if that helps me to pace my running, my steps, my stride, I can have that anywhere between 5 and 240 times per minute. And then again, that will play for 20 seconds at the beginning of every 5 minutes as I'm doing my jogger style stopwatch. So I think I kind of like to leave that, I guess I could leave it off, but I sort of like to leave it at 60 and just get a beep once every second when I'm in jogger mode. All right, next up, the next mode is your countdown timer. And this is pretty standard as far as countdown timers go, except with some of my newer Casio watches. If it's set to all zeros like this, it'll give you the maximum length timer. But in this case, it doesn't do anything. So I'm going to have to set it to some figure, all the way up to 19 hours. Let's see, my maximum I can go here is 19 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. So I could do that. It's kind of nice that this will allow you to set the timer, not just hours and minutes, but for seconds if you want to. So if I wanted to set it for just 12 seconds, just for the fun of it, it will allow me to do a 12-second countdown timer. And look, it's got hours, minutes, seconds, and tenths of a second. And then, okay, this automatically repeats. So unfortunately, if you don't want that to happen, there's no way to stop that from happening. This is an auto repeat countdown timer. No matter what you do, no matter what the length is, once it reaches the end of that duration, it will beep, and then it will automatically start counting down the same amount of time once again. So there you go. All right, I'm going to stop that though for now and go to the next mode. And the next mode after timer is a regular stopwatch. So start that stopwatch down here, It's got hours, minutes, seconds, and hundredths of a second, and you have your split time right up there. There's no memory on this particular stopwatch. It's just as it is. Stop the stopwatch, reset it, and there you go. This will go up to 20 hours, and then if it reaches 20 hours, it will reset to 0 and keep on going. That's your standard stopwatch there. Now, the thing that I haven't told you about on this watch so far, because it's kind of another mode all to its own, is this pulse mode. So let's take a look at that for a moment. So it's a little bit hard to see, but this button up here says pulse on it. And there's the sensor for your pulse. So it's pretty easy to use, really. Some people misunderstand how it's supposed to be used, but if I push the pulse button, now it's going to try to measure my pulse, and all I do is hold my fingertip over that sensor. That sensor is actually a light sensor, so somehow as the blood is pumping through my fingertip, it is able to sense the change of opacity of my fingertip, and it's able to calculate my pulse based on that. Now, in order for this to work correctly, you don't want to push down hard. You just want to gently hold your finger on there. You want to be in a fairly well-lit area, and you also want to keep your finger and the watch pretty stable in relation to each other. So right now, my pulse rate is kind of on the high side up there in the 80s, and that's actually not too unusual for me when I'm talking and when I'm busy like this. And so what you're able to do with this pulse mode as well, if I want my regular pulse to be, say, 60 beats per minute, this is automatically going to calculate the percentage of my heart rate, that regular heart rate right up there. So if my target heart rate is 60, I'm up to 142% of that. One way, if that's too confusing, one way that I get around that is I'll hold down the adjust button, and if I set this up to, say, 100 as my regular pulse rate, okay, just for the fun of it, and then I go ahead and try to measure my pulse, then whatever comes out in the larger readout at the bottom, then that percentage is just going to be redundant there. So it kind of makes it easy if whatever one is more convenient for me to look at, the larger number there or the smaller number up there. If I set this to 100, then they're both going to show the same thing. So that might be convenient for what I'm doing. But again, this will time out after a couple of minutes automatically if you leave your finger off of there and the sensor is just subject to whatever light is hitting it. You can see there it's not really working correctly. But if you just hold your finger down there gently and your finger and the watch are not moving very much, it eventually will settle down and give you, a pretty accurate readout of your pulse. Don't consider this as, really sophisticated medical equipment. But again, as you're jogging and as you're out and about, and again, in the 1980s, this was a pretty good tool to have if you were trying to monitor your pulse while you were exercising. Okay, and then to get out of this mode, just push pulse again, and you're back to normal timekeeping. So those are the main functions and features of this watch. I've had this for probably 32 years already, and it's gotten a little bit beat up, some scratches here and there on the case and elsewhere. I found that the face, it's that just big flat piece of plastic crystal there, was pretty susceptible to scratching. In recent years, I've discovered Polywatch, and I was able to polish that up pretty well. You can still see, some remnants of scratches, but instead of being deep scratches, the Polywatch product tended to just kind of soften the edges of the scratches, and so it actually makes it look pretty good. Polywatch was a good thing to use on this particular watch crystal. So if you can find these, I think they're on eBay. I think you could find one here or there. Just be warned that original Casio watch band probably isn't going to last very well. Other than that, it's kind of a fun thing to have, and look at this one, it still works. So enjoy that. Anyway, I'll have some more reviews coming soon, so please stay tuned for more episodes of The Good Timekeeping Show.